Well, good afternoon. Welcome to Beth Roszman's presentation. Beth Roszman is an avid dowser, researcher, teacher, and consultant in esoteric healing arts. She's been a dowser for over 19 years. She teaches Phoenix vibrational healing, a highly effective healing modality incorporating sacred geometry with dowsing. She also provides weekly psychic weather updates, intuitive solution tools, and energy clearings on her YouTube channel, theintuitivesolution.com. I will put that in the chat. She began her work with dowsing in the business world, where she implemented it as an essential tool in leading teams from Fortune 500 companies and national nonprofits to increase revenue, attain grants, and successfully manage national science and technology conferences. I think ASD is going to hire you, Beth.
I'm loving spending time as a trustee for sure. Lisa's doing a great job though.
As I recall, it was your own female, I'm not going to say bosses, but
yeah,
supervisors who encouraged you to go professional. Beth loves to play piano, read runes, study astrology, and visit sacred sites. Now she is learning Spanish so she can expand to Mexico and South America. She's a certified human resource manager with a bachelor's in English and psychology from the University of Kentucky, and she resides in Carmel by the Sea, California. Let's give a warm welcome to Beth.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Sheila. I appreciate that. So I know I'm with a lot of experienced dowsers today, and I'm honored that you've come to attend my session. My goal is that you will take home at least 2 to 3 new approaches to your dowsing regarding looking at your home, your property, your land, and that you might learn 2 to 3 clearing techniques. So I've compiled this information over about 19 years of research. Some of it is my findings with Phoenix vibrational healing, and much of it's just really working on my own home and property and that of my clients, the businesses I've worked for. And I think you will probably agree that the spaces we occupy are as important as the physical bodies we occupy as spirits, as human spirits. And that's why I love doing land and home clearings and looking at the home and property, because they have so many clues into what could be going on with our own field, what could be helping us or hindering us. So today I'm going to go through a presentation, and I'm just going to show you a new way, at least my new way of looking at a home and property from a more of a quantum perspective and how I dowse it. And I also have some codes and frequencies that I do with clients that will attune the properties or homes, but I also have really easy techniques if you don't want to use any kind of Reiki or anything else. And most of the work I do for land and home is actually in absentia. I was taught it that way. I've been working with it for a number of years. It's very effective, which has come in handy this last year. I've received some amazing feedback from my clients. One lady this was last year when the real estate market was a little more sluggish, but she wasn't able to, she was in Los Gatos, California. She wasn't able to sell her home. It had been on the market for months and they needed to move to Seattle. And I did the clearings for her, and the house sold within 2 to 3 weeks. And I'm sure she had a great real estate agent and the house helped too. But you know, I've had that happen many times. So we do an attunement and something really positive happens in someone's home and property. So I'm excited to get on the way and share my presentation with you and just sort of go down into that and show you how we work this. So I'm going to share my screen. And if everything's going well, you should be watching right now a presentation.
Nope, let me problem solve.
Oh, here it goes. No, I think it's on my end, Sheila. Thank you, though. There we go.
Okay.
I'm actually pretty new to Zoom, you guys, so please be patient. I I'm just an old-fashioned person that likes physical meetings, but I'm so thankful we could all be together today virtually. I think it all works out. So I'm Beth Roszman, as Sheila mentioned, and I'm at The Intuitive Solution. And if you want to find me on YouTube, just type in Beth Roszman to their little search engine. And in service to the times we're in, I want to assist people to gain more clarity for themselves, their home, more calmness. So I started my YouTube channel, and frankly, I'm kind of a shy person, and it was hard for me to put myself out there, but I offer a lot of free clearings and information on my channel just to assist people right now with what we're going through, or actually seeding for a new beginning, because I think these are amazing times. And I'll just say, you know, I'm sort of a, I don't know, part-time astrologer too. So we just had the new moon yesterday, the eclipse, wonderful new beginnings. We have some aspects coming up that could be more challenging, but I know that with our dowsing tools and our ability to alchemize our experience, we will get through anything that comes our way. So the first slide I'm going to talk about is the symptoms of an out-of-tune home or property. And if you're an intuitive person, you probably can sense your home or property pretty well. And even your pets might be the first to alert you that there could be some sort of interference or intrusion. I know they do that on a physical level, but I have a cat that will literally warn me with very strange meowing when there is an aberrance on the property. I'll do the clearing, he'll stop meowing. I'm not an animal communicator yet. I'm working on it, but in my mind, that means there was something, I fix it, or he helped me fix it. So you might find that you will be away for a while from your house and you'll come back and it just doesn't feel right. And some people will say, oh, that's because I was away. But again, that's another time to look at things. You might be all of a sudden not sleeping so well. You might feel like you want to get out of your house. You might feel like, I don't really want to be here. And for no good reason, you might just get in your car and start driving. Sometimes actually, you also might feel unsafe for no reason, or unsettled or restless. You might have anxiety. And at the worst, you could even have a loss of income or health. And pets might run away. I had a situation with actually the home I'm living in currently. And this was many years ago, but I had a lot of people leaving my life for no good reason. And my cat actually ran away to the lady 2 doors down. She just didn't like the feeling here. And this was before I did a lot of energy work. So we tuned the house up and literally the cat came back and she was just happy. And another time, one of my friends moved to a house with a lot of severe vibrational discordancy, and her dog he wouldn't stay. He just ran away. I mean, I think that's the most egregious, maybe the worst case scenario. Most of this is just going to manifest with maybe you're not sleeping well, you're feeling a little weird, maybe you're not getting as many visitors. It's a part of ourselves as our home. So some of it can just manifest in those ways. And again, the causes are many. It could be because of a history of the land. I've found that in areas of the country where there have been American Indian tribes, that sometimes there have been curses put on the land. If there has been a battle, even it might not even be a battle in our historical recognition. It could have been a battle outside of any history book, but that leaves a vibrational imprint on the land because we're all vibration. And this is how we work in absentia. We tune into the vibration. Also geopathic stress, and again, just noxious environmental poisons. They might be, a lot of people I know in the Cleveland and Pittsburgh area, their home and properties are perfectly well, but they have fracking going on underneath. So they do experience some side effects, and they're very sensitive people. So those are some of the symptoms. And of course, dowsing is the key to determining what those symptoms actually are. So going on to the next slide, I'm going to go review my approach to dowsing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I know many of you are very experienced dowsers and have your own systems. And I offer these to anybody who might find that they're helpful. The first thing is I always check that I am clear to give and receive 100% truthful, accurate, reliable information now. And I'm just going to douse it now just to make sure. I got a yes. And I have bias or deception, no. So that's good. But if you ever do get a no, there's an easy technique that you can just use your hands like this and cross them over. And then check yourself. And that will actually shift that polarity. Then, since we're in a home and space clearing, I wanted to mention the land. So you also want to make sure your home and land and its contents are clear to give and receive 100% truthful, accurate, reliable information. Of course, if it's someone else's land, again, I'm going to mention the ethics and principles. You want to make sure that you have their overt permission. And anytime you're working with or checking into someone, very important. I teach that as a first principle of all my courses. So respect free will and other people's integrity and their land as well. And again, so the third one, we want to make sure that the home and land and property and its contents, all of your books and your furniture and computers, they're in 100%, not 85%, but 100% communication and connection to the creator of all that is, and vice versa. Again, it doesn't have to be called the creator. You might call it source, the divine infinite, but just assuring that there's that two-way communication. And when you can check these and get yeses on them, you're coming from a place of confidence, which is, as you all know, that's where it starts. So you have to be confident to be able to effectively dowse. And this fourth one is something that's super important. And I check myself for this almost every day. You want to make sure you have full, complete, total personal, free ownership, possession, control, dominion, authority of, on, without, throughout, surrounding, above, and beyond 100% of the property, land, and home and automobile, and yourself as well, actually. If you don't, then it's time to go back to your own clearing techniques and ensure that comes into play. I actually check myself for this nearly every day because we're all prone to these influences, potentially, maybe. I don't ever want to think I'm outside of it just because I practice it. We have to do our own work first. And this is the fifth question here is something I check nearly every time I'm dowsing something important. I or my dowsing is experiencing deception, self-deception, bias, or self-bias regarding this home, property, and its contents. If you're not working on a home or property, you just say regarding this question. And if you have that, then you course correct, which is actually a whole nother workshop about the energy clearing tools. I'll share a few with you at the end that are very effective. And then empowerment is very important to ensure that we're fully empowered over our homes and properties. I worked with a client recently, and she was renting a very nice house in Monterey. And the man she was renting from is actually kind of a powerful family here. And this client, though, is also very adept at her clearing tools and is a professional healer, but she was doing corrections on the property, and she found that she didn't have empowerment over it. Although she was paying very good money to this landlord to live there, he had the empowerment over the property. So but she literally did have the right to be empowered over it because she's paying for that space. So once she established her empowerment, she was able to actually do the clearings it had to have. So always ensure that you're empowered. So a statement I provide, and I'm big into specific wording. I'm kind of like I was an English major, as Sheila mentioned, so I love the wording. To me, it works. I like to be specific. That's where we go with that. So this is where I check empowerment. I have full, complete, total, personal, free ownership, possession, control, dominion of, on, upon, over, within, without, throughout, surrounding, above and beyond 100% of this property, land, home, and automobile. Yes, that's a lot. You can even point to the statement, though, and just douse it if you want. You don't have to always say it out loud. And I offer these to you. You're welcome to use them. Give me feedback, what works, what doesn't. I'm a researcher at heart. So the next one, though, is, again, it goes back to I or my dowsing is experiencing deception, self-deception, bias regarding this land, property, or its contents. Sometimes there are influences that are so nefarious that they literally will try to interfere with our dowsing. And we're just not going to let that happen because we're going to be 100% empowered over our dowsing. All right. So Now we're going to go into the meat of this, which is assuring the integrity of your space, which is key, especially now that we're all working more from home. At least maybe not all of us, but if you're retired, you're still working and conducting yourself from home. Our homes have become more important this last year than ever. So this is a really big one. I know it sounds a little exotic, and I could have even made this longer, but I wanted to share it with you because it's the first thing I always check. My brother was thinking about buying a business, and I looked at the business and it wasn't in its appropriate location, dimension, time, space, reality. Virtual reality, the list could go on. That means usually there's some sort of discord on the property, and we can fix this. But you want to make sure the land and property and home and its contents are all 100% in their own appropriate location, time, space, dimension, reality, virtual reality, and so it goes. You also want to make sure that the home and the contents are not arrested in time or stuck in time. Interestingly, there's a town near where I live. It's called Pacific Grove, California, and it's a sweet little seaside Victorian community, and it's a wonderful place. And I've met wonderful people there. Yet they do have they're having trouble with some of their governing principles, and other strange discord is coming up within the city. And if you go there, you'll notice it just seems like a land out of time, and it's beautiful, but you can actually douse a city or a town. And last time I checked, I haven't done it in about 6 months, but Pacific Grove is not in its appropriate time and space and reality. It's actually stuck more in the years of the 1950s. So towns and cities can be stuck too in a time period or a building. And that's something to look at as well. And so you also want to make sure that the home and land and its contents are in 100% attunement and resonance with yourself and the other residents. It's just helping you to be more effective there. And I realize I'm giving you a lot of information really quickly, but we've left plenty of time for questions and answers. I just wanted to cover as much as I could. And again, so I mentioned that the home is like a place where our life force is stored, just as our physical bodies are a place where the soul and soul essence are stored. And this is a very common finding. I find that there are homes that are not available to life force. They are not available to vital energy from the creator, prana, chi. I like to say love from the creator of all that is. That's a big one. So you can actually douse your home, land, and property. And of course, you want to make sure that your home, land, and property are all clear to give and receive accurate information. And then you can douse the amount of life force expressed as a percentage that this home and property have available now is. And you want it to be 95% or more. Oftentimes, it's a little lower for some of the reasons I listed. Other reasons that I could do a whole nother workshop on. So we'll just leave those there. And then once you've determined how much life force or chi or prana or love that's available, you'll want to find out of that amount that's coming in, how much are you able to process as a percentage? Because sometimes a home can be fully open to the love of the creator or the prana, but we might not be able to process it effectively. And that's something you really want to check on. And by doing some of the clearings I will mention at the end of this session, you will very much gain empowerment over this and be able to correct it. So some of the things that could be blocking. So if you find a low percentage, that can often be caused by there's a bubble or a shield or a dome or a foreign environment installed around your home. And that's different than a bubble that's effective that will assist you in just maintaining your space, different than a quantum chamber of light. This is a bubble or a shield or a gap shield that's literally repelling the life force out of your property, which is why you might feel drained. Your home is not nurturing you. It's not nurturing your participant, your residents. I've found that sometimes when people have children in their home and they have this shield or shell around it, that their child is not doing well in school, or they're restless, or they can't focus and concentrate because the home is not a nurturing place. So you want to douse that to see if there's this bubble, dome, shield, shell, anything like that. And then you want to see if it's blocked or is receiving stagnant chi, prana, life force, and that the home and land is free of those. And substitute whatever you want. It could be blocked. It just could be blocked energy from the earth, or blocked fertility from the earth. You could check the soil, the walls of the house. You know, the list goes on. This is just a very high level look. So the third one is actually super important. And I found some amazing discoveries that have helped people immensely by checking the land, home, and property and its contents to see if it's under the influence of attack, assault, aggression, spells, hexes, vexes, curses, jinxes. The list goes on. And they come from various places, but when they're happening on a property, they're probably happening to you too. So it's something that can definitely be corrected. And I find it more often than not, actually. So if you ever do find this, don't be too worried. You're not alone. It just simply happens by virtue of many things. Again, I'm sort of glossing over a big topic, but I want to just give you the Reader's Digest version of the home and property clearings Beth Roszman does. So the polarity of a land is really important too. The polarity is like a magnet. You want to make sure that if it's in reverse polarity, then it's not going to be an operational function. It's like a magnet. If it's not operating its appropriate polarity, it can cause interference. And the next one, again, I find this maybe in about 15% of the properties I find, but sometimes there can be a portal or an astral portal or a doorway or a gateway or an access way on the property. And sometimes people might like a portal. Maybe they want to have spirits coming in and out, and that's certainly their situation. So you could always insert this home or property or its contents contained or is being influenced by the detrimental portal or astral portal, doorways, gateways, or access ways. So the detrimental is a key word. I have never actually found a portal that's beneficial. If you have, I'd love to hear about it. I'm certainly open because I think there certainly can be portals that are. And by the way, you can actually find these in your body, mind, field complex. And those can cause some intense issues of health. So there's a meditation I have used, and this is before I became very honed in and attuned to the code technologies. I use Phoenix Vibrational Healing, which is a set of, it's like Reiki codes for those of you who are Reiki masters, and I'm one of them, but I use mostly the Phoenix Vibrational Healing codes and frequencies. They were developed by Fred Edmund Payne Jr. out of Lexington, Kentucky in the 90s and early 2000s. He passed in 2015, actually 2016, and he's with our Sky Dowsers now. But I initially learned much of my dowsing work in the context of sacred geometry clearings. But before I knew how to work with the codes and frequencies that are just simple sacred geometry symbols that will reattune a person or a home to their simple elegance and harmony, before I did that, I used this meditation for land and homes, and I've adopted it from the process in the Pleiadian workbook by Amora Kuan Yin. I love this book. I attribute some of my teachings to her. She's incredible. I definitely encourage you to seek that out. So I was living in an apartment in Lexington, Kentucky, basically in the early 2000s when I started doing this. And it was a old Victorian girls' school in downtown Lexington. It was made out of amazing oak and marble. It was an amazing school when it was finished and done, but then throughout the years, very noxious, nefarious, intruding influences came in. And as I started dowsing, I started to become aware of those influences. And I didn't have the tools to clear them, but I used this meditation. I'm not going to go through it right now. I would definitely encourage you to use it. I actually still use this on my home and property to this day. And I do a little bit more with it. I do codes and frequencies. And I have actually used it to assist the crows. I love crows, but we have a mutual respect for each other. I use this meditation to assure that the crows stay away from my home and property, to allow the songbirds to come in, and they do. And I've asked their permission. It's respect, but I have empowerment over my home and property because it's mine. I paid for it. So that's the empowerment piece again. Now they can go to the neighbor's house, and they do, but I know that when a crow appears on my property that I need to check it. And again, I haven't mentioned this, but I definitely recommend checking our homes, properties, cars, offices, computer equipment, nearly at least maybe once to twice a week, to ensure that it's in its integrity. Yeah. And I also, so this is like a little process of what I use. It's a short slide, but it's got a lot of information in it. So this is something I found that's really important, and I'll share with y'all. I work anonymously through the creator of all that is. Even when I'm physically with a person, giving them Reiki hands-on, I still put that consciousness through the creator, because it, for one, assists my client having that separation. So if maybe I have an influence that I have not been able to identify, it will assure that my client or my person I'm working with or home that I'm working with is free from any outside influence that I might not be aware of. But then it also assures that I am protected from that influence. And by going straight to the creator of all that is, we can attune it and set it so that it's only for that person's and those appropriately involved, their highest and best. Not for everybody, because some people, free will, they don't want our prayers. Like, they have their own reasons. So I love the word appropriately involved. And I work anonymously by connecting from a gold bond of light through my crown chakra up to source. And then from source, I connect with the gold bond of light into the property I'm working with. Then maybe I have their occupants of the property, so I put them on a separate gold bond of light from the creator, back up to the creator, the home and its contents to the creator, back to the creator. And then I'm projecting the codes and frequencies through the creator to them. So I have had a lot of success with that. And I don't know of any other techniques that uses that. So I wanted to share it. So you can, we're all powerful creator beings. We really are. We are made that way. And I think that's been denied to many people, but I know you as dowsers, you understand, we have that connection. We know how to connect to truth. I love working with this group of people because we know how to connect to truth. And that's the most important thing we can have right now. As I've said before, dowsing is one of the most important skills I've learned in my whole life, besides reading, writing, and maybe dancing. So dowsing has been wonderful, but we're very much empowered, and we are co-creators. So with will and intention, we can charge the creator of all it is to find, identify, locate, and clear fully to completion all forms, types, levels, varieties, qualities, classifications of, bam, and you just put in the influence. It could be a foreign environment around the property. And if you don't have your codes and frequencies or don't have another technique, just by going to the prayer of the creator and assuming your empowerment, you will clear it. We're more powerful than we know. Thank you. But that's the key. I think we all need that reminding, and we have to remind each other, and hopefully you'll remind me one day. So that's how it works. And then another technique I found, it's super easy. You can use this for nearly anything, as in maybe an emotional charge you're coming online to with a situation, or an influence in the home that you've identified. You can use a sweeping mudra, which involves taking a deep breath and envisioning that which you're clearing. And on the deep breath, you envision it. And then on the out breath, you're going to clear it with that sweeping mudra. You're just literally energetically sweeping it out. I like to do the sound. I think that helps. You don't have to use the sound though. Another one is, like, say you might have a leak or a drain on your property, which could come from any number of places. You might have a super noxious person that comes in and they bring their stuff with them, and it causes a leak in the property. You can use this chopping mudra to clear out anything that's coming in. Like maybe there's a bond of interference. You chop it, and then you can seal it with a gold figure 8, or you can use electric blue, a pretty rose, whatever color of brightness feels good to you. Yeah, so that, another thing I didn't mention though, a property could have leaks and drains as well. So you can check for those too. I also use colors around the house. One I found from Saint Germain, the Violet Flame. I use this for my field, but also my home and property. And when some of my other techniques do not work, with my hand and intention on the out breath, I cast my home in a violet flame, and I pretend that my home is breathing in the violet flame throughout all of its plaster, its wood, its ceiling, its glass, and I'm breathing it into my field. So you cast that violet flame all around the house and in the house, and you're breathing it in. And your house is breathing it in. You can be the witness, the radionic witness for your home and property. And I've been sometimes very nauseated and not feeling in balance, and I do the violet flame around me and breathe it in. It's gone almost immediately. It's beautiful. The other one is a pink mist. I got this just as a download one night when I had a very noxious person residing here. And the pink mist just came to me, and I saw the whole home included in pink mist. And the next day I ran into a lady on my walk, and she was a counselor for trauma survivors of war. And out of the blue, she told me how she would work with soldiers with PTSD. And she said so many of them talked about seeing a pink mist when they were in trauma or saw their buddy being attacked. And they saw this pink mist. I was like, oh my gosh, I just saw that last night. Wow. And I love the pink mist for when we're going through situations of harm or distress. And then the last one is the roses. And that again comes from Amora Kuan Yin, the Pleiadian workbook, but I know other cultures use it too. The rose is a perfect symbol of sacred geometry. And when we use the roses, we're attuning whatever happens to that rose, or we're attuning whatever we need to clear to the high vibrational harmony and integrity of that rose's innate beauty, its innate sacred geometry. So that sacred geometry can absorb and negate any negative influence. And all you need to do is think of a rose. Maybe there's you identify something in your home that's noxious or detrimental. You can just think of a rose taking that and absorbing it. And when it's absorbed it, and there's still more, bring in new roses. And when you're done, think about those roses going up to the level of the creator and blowing them up. So that's another effective way to go about that. So there are a lot of other techniques I have too, but I wanted to keep this somewhat contained just so we have, information. And then I also I didn't put it in the presentation, but this came from Fred Payne, the Phoenix Vibrational Healing Work. And apparently Fred was a keynote speaker at ASD many years ago. I think back in probably the 90s. So I thought that was interesting. But Fred and many of his apprentices worldwide use this clearing code, and it's super easy. I'll share it with you now, but it's a blessing code. You can bless anything that comes into your home and property just by using this code over it. And again, I mentioned I work in absentia through the creator for homes and properties. And one of the ways I do that is in my hands, I will say, this is my home and property. And I project it right here in my hands. And you can even douse to assure that it's appropriately in there. And then I can do it like a mass clearing by doing the clearing code. So if you have your pens and pencils ready, I'll say it out loud. And I know it sounds strange, but it's numerical, which is geometry. And it has thousands of people every day using this code. So we're going to bless our home and property. And I invite you to do this with me now. So in your mind's eye, put your home and property right here in your left hand. Bam, boom, there it is. And douse to assure that it's appropriately in your hand. And then over it, to bless all of the home and its property and its contents, you go 9961. Integrate, integrate, integrate. Thank you, creator of all that is. So again, I'm projecting 9961. That's the healing code number. And then I'm taking my hand clockwise to me, my right hand clockwise over the home and property, which is radionically in my hand. This is why I love video, because it's really hard to explain this via phone. The sweeping meter is hard too. So my home and property here, and you go 9961, integrate, integrate, integrate. Now, these codes and frequencies. Thank you, creator of all that is. And I always really believe in thanking the creator of all that is. We are co-creators, but having that gratitude, I believe, is actually the key piece that moves it forward. You also might want to douse for detrimental. I think I'd mentioned this on one of my slides, but I skipped ahead a little bit. So you could also find on your property, and this little 9961 will help if you find any of the following. You can have discordant emotional substance abuse on the property, emotional trauma. If someone has died on the property, it's not necessarily a negative situation, but it can create a portal. So you want to look for that. Or emotional trauma if there was domestic violence on the property, or again, a war or a battle. Imprints of disaster, warfare, and violence. Energies and forces of conflict. Maybe the couple that, or the people that lived in the home before you had conflict, or you're renting a home. I was at Mount Shasta with a friend last year, and we rented a really cute little retro trailer at Mount Shasta, but my friend and I are really great together, but we were getting in fights like 3 times a day. And sure enough, when we're in it, we don't think to douse, but I walked by the lake and I got a little insight, and I checked, and there were energies and forces of conflict in the trailer that dated back about 30 years. And those were influencing us. So you can use the variety of techniques I've shown you. You can do the sweeping mudra, the 9961. You can just go to the creator. And I'm sure many of you have clearing techniques too that I'd love to hear about. And the last one is actually, I find more often than not, and it's suppressive and oppressive influences. And it might be that you or the people that are in the house feel just a little low level depression, or people aren't functioning as well as they ought to be. Check this. And sometimes these are actually broadcast from our TVs. I definitely respect people who love to watch TV. I watched much of it myself, but I don't have a TV in my home. And at night, I like to unplug my router and my phone. I think that some of the frequencies coming through the TV, even if it's off but plugged in, are detrimental to the human energy field in many ways. That's just my situation. So also going back to that with the TV, you want to look at geopathic stress or stressors, such as if there's fracking underneath the home or other things going on, electrical pollution in the home. Now I use my computer all the time. I have Wi-Fi on in the daytime. I fully know that I'm probably subject to some of this. It's kind of a fact of where we're living right now, unless we live out in the middle of nowhere. So I definitely encourage you to look at electromagnetic frequency deflectors. Many people have them. Fred Payne, my friend that developed Phoenix Vibrational Healing, he had many products back in the early 2000s. They were EMF deflectors, and I was working in a pretty noxious electrical environment at the time with lots of servers nearby. And I took his code cards, which are EMF deflectors, and I installed them per his instructions around my area. I could feel immediately a difference in my health. My stress lowered. I was able to sleep better at night. I didn't feel as tense at work. So sometimes we're feeling anxious or tense, and it's nothing that's happening in our life, but it's because there's EMF frequencies going on. So you can use clearing techniques. Again, I think it's important to look into a good EMF deflector, and I don't have any recommendations on that. I think it's just important to find out, use what works best for you, and douse it, of course. Level of effectiveness of this device to clear my home. And yeah, and again, make sure that the device is clear. If you're checking a brand name, let's say it's Beth's ABC EMF electromagnetic frequency deflector, just check that by its name. It's clear to give and receive. If it's not clear, you probably don't want to use it. So check the items you're dousing too to make sure they're clear. Also check your items in your home to make sure they're not obsolete or detrimental. I was working with a client lady on her cat. The cat had a kidney infection, and I doused all the clearings, and the one I got first, or nearly first, was that there was a detrimental object in her home. So I knew the floor plan of her home, and I doused that it was in her living room. And I doused that it was in a suitcase. And she'd just been visiting an antique store, and she brought home a lot of stuff in her suitcase. And she had an old-fashioned Baby Alive doll from the 70s, and it was a crazy-looking doll. She sent me a picture of it. But there was actually interference coming through this doll, and the cat would lay on the suitcase with the doll in it. And I got that there was sorcery, black magic sorcery coming through the doll into the cat. I don't say that in many presentations, but you guys are open-minded. So that was something going on there. So you just never know if there's an object. And I advised her to maybe throw the item out, even though she paid good money for it. You can clear it or assess through dowsing whether or not what you need to do with it. And I have found the next one really effective as I weed through my many years of possessions to make sure that something is, it's in your highest and best interest to actually get rid of it. So you can check the statement. I'm going to give you about Sheila, I'm going to give everybody about 10 seconds to look over my statement because my Mac is actually low on battery, and I'm going to plug the cord in before I lose you guys. So pause for a moment.
I think that's great. Beth only has a couple more slides, and then we may be able to get to some of the questions.
Yeah.
I'm just telling everybody that this is the last presentation. So if people want to stay a few minutes longer, that's okay.
Cool, thank you.
Because we want to have questions.
Yeah, that's great. And the good news is my Mac is plugged in. I was at 1%. So Mercury retrograde. Thank you for even making this happen. This is the last slide. And it sort of touches on some of the things that in my work I found that are some of the common finds. I have a whole body of work I check through a home, but these are some of the most important ones I have found. There could be a discordant channel, flow, or stream into the home, a detrimental energy bond. Discordant geometry is another one. And again, these can come from a variety of sources. And more than trying to find where the source of it is, I do a technique where I douse back in time. So if I find an influence that's rather nefarious, I might say, 1 month ago, this home and property was experiencing discordant geometry. And then I'll talk to the person and I'll say, did something happen a month ago? If I find it happened a month ago, did something happen a month ago? I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I had this, we had our whole sewer dug up. Oh, okay. So again, like if you have new items coming into the home or if work is being done on your home, you want to make sure you bring the work and all of its materials in appropriate resonance to your own home and your own vibratory frequency. Otherwise, things like black energy spirals can come up. You can almost see these if you're a clairvoyant. You might see a shadowy spiral in the corner or something. And those are signs that your property is probably a little bit disconnected. And then another one is discordant physical thought forms. So let's say that you rented an apartment and the family that lived there was before you had a lot of problems with drug and alcohol abuse. Maybe they were abusive to each other, verbally or physically. If it's strong enough, it will literally leave a physical thought form on the property, and it can affect you very adversely. If you're a thrift store shopper with beds and, well, with any kind of thing, clothing, object, make sure that it's clear of these discordant physical thought forms because they will take on a certain energy field of their own. And then if your frequency might be lower as a result of just the stress of your day. If you're not careful, your frequency will be lowered by these discordant physical thought forms. So there could be an influence that's been on your property for a while, but you might only feel it every now and then because maybe most of the time you keep your field pretty high. But there are those days when we all need to come home and recharge, and those are and we feel weaker. But those are the times we most need our house to be in attunement, and when it's not, it has the most impact. So I'll leave this presentation on that note, Sheila, and I definitely Looking forward to questions. I'm going to stop sharing the screen now. There we go. So.
Okay, I'm going to go back through these and say, someone wanted to know if you could put the basic checks in the chat. And then later, someone asked if they could get a copy of the slides. If the basic checks are in the slides.
Yes, they are in the slides. So that will happen.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the basic checks. So thanks for asking that.
All right. So are you going to save that as a PDF and upload it?
Yes.
Okay.
Ideally, I would love to just put it in the chat right now. Let me go back to share screen, see if I can copy it.
Okay. And then, another question is, why do you check when a crow comes onto your property? Or do you just randomly notice it?
I check when a crow comes onto my property because I have done a lot of vibrational uplifting on my property to the point where it's vibrationally on a higher level than it's on the vibrational level that I needed to be for myself, my work, and the occupants of the home. And it's on a lower frequency than the crow's frequency. This gets a little bit into shamanism, but I definitely respect the crows. And some people who have a raven or a crow as their totem are a little offended by my work, but I always say I respect the crow and its medicine. But from myself, it's not my medicine. It's not I'm getting a note, my internet connection is unstable. But so I have set it so that we have an agreement, the crows will stay away from my property. And yet when one does come onto the property, it's a clue from myself to check my own vibratory frequency and that of my home, because then something has been lowered or breached. You might have your own situation like that. You know, it could be a UPS driver. I mean, it could be anything. But since I own my home and I have empowerment over it, now I wouldn't go to my friend's house or my parents' house and do that because that's just not mine. I have no empowerment there. That's where empowerment comes in. But it's a little bit of a signal, a barometer. Okay. And you might have them in your own world. Maybe there's a barometer, a signal that shows you your home is a little bit out of attunement. It could be anything like the garbage disposal not working or making a strange sound. There are all these clues in our environment that as dowsers we can tune into and douse.
Thank you. And on our property, the crows protect the songbirds from the hawks.
Oh, wow.
They do not allow hawks on our 15 acres.
I love that. Again, it's just an individual difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Donna Lee asked the name of Amora Kuan Yin's book that you said several times, but it was so fast we couldn't catch it.
Yes. It was the Pleiadian Handbook.
How do you spell that?
I'm not good at spelling Pleiadian. I hate that because I love the Pleiadian. So it's Pleiadian. Pleiadian Handbook by Amora Kuan Yin.
Okay. Yeah. Because apparently she has published a lot of books.
She has. She's a wonder. I could show I should have had it handy. I could just hold up the book. I keep it by my bedside. There's a lot of, really, she has a technique to use the quantum chamber of light when you sleep. Just a lot of good stuff.
Okay.
I'm always eager to share credit. You know, I didn't think of all this stuff on my own. We're all collaborators. We're all experts here. So just sharing what works.
Yes, somebody put that into chat. Donna Lee did.
Yeah, cool. Donna, yeah. Thank you, Donna.
Okay. Give me a second. Well, I have one. When you were doing the numerical 9961, I couldn't quite keep up with the whole statement.
Okay.
Slow it down.
Right. I'm going to type it.
Okay.
It's 9961. Intensify, magnify, and then magnify, and then I do integrate, integrate 3 times around it. And you're going to do 3 times in a clockwise direction. And that is a wholesale blessing code to bring whatever you bring into your home into your residence, to clear from it any toxic frequencies or anything that just could have creeped onto it from the store. I mean, our stuff comes from all over the world. So I pretty much do this over everything I bring home. And in fact, I do it when I put it in my car. And how I did that is just easy. You can say install. Look, let's say I just got my groceries. I put them all in my car. I was going to say my car right here in my left hand, and then with my right hand, I'm blessing everything in my car. So I'm going 9, 9, and my hand is clockwise. 9, 9, 6, 1. Intensify, magnify, integrate, integrate, integrate. Thank you, Creator of all that is. And you can check through your dowsing. It's nice to measure the results of the work you've done. So you could check, maybe douse for the contents of your car before you did the clearing, if there were noxious frequencies or detrimental influences. You could check for the number of noxious frequencies or detrimental influences. Mm-hmm. Or you could say that the amount of the contents of this car as a percentage that have a detrimental frequency to myself is more than 1%, 2%. Or you could just do the clearing and not douse. I like to douse and measure it.
Come back to us.